Well, this is the time of year that is truly merry. It's the time of year when we all can celebrate the birth of the Christ consciousness in us. It's the rebirth of the Christ consciousness, really. And why is it rebirth? Because the Christ consciousness is always in us. The divine is in us. That's who we are. The divine is everywhere. But this is the time of year when we become conscious of it and give it rebirth. Let it come forth in human form, giving it human life and manifesting this Christ consciousness in our lives every day and everything we do. As Katrina talked about last week, December 25th isn't actually the correct date for the birth of the man Jesus, who became the Christ. December 25th usually corresponds more with the vernal equinox, a pagan holiday which celebrates another beginning of life. That's what this time of year is the beginning of new life. The seeds underground begin to sprout in preparation for their spring growth. And the sun at this time of year begins to shine longer each day. Life on earth is literally reborn. Our Christ consciousness does exactly the same thing. It's like it's been hibernating for some of us, unseen, refueling, growing, germinating, and gaining strength for its physical manifestation, like the plants underground in seed form. Like it says in Ecclesiastes, for everything there is a season, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to harvest. This is the appropriate season for that rebirth. Yes, Christmas is the season for our Christ consciousness to be born and to start manifesting in our personal lives, in our human form. Later, we will harvest the fruits of this, a peaceful, loving, joyful life. And as the birth of a child is an exceedingly joyful thing. It's a joyful time full of hope and love and excitement. With Christmas comes the joy of gifts. And don't forget to offer gifts to yourself. One of the greatest gifts that you can give yourself is to offer your little Christ within the gift of whatever will help your baby Christ consciousness develop in you and your life to its full potential. And we talked about that 2 weeks ago in terms of Unity co-founder Charles Fillmore's 12 powers. Specifically, the power of renunciation. We talked about letting go of all those things that impede your progress in becoming a fully developed human being. Now, what we choose to renounce is different for each of us, and it's also different at different times of our growth on our path. But certainly some common denominators are the renunciation of such things as fear and doubt and negativity and non-forgiveness, because these things stunt our growth. They stunt the growth of your baby Christ consciousness. In this regard, I'd like to share with you a Course of Miracles poem. Christmas is holy only if you come in silence to the manger to behold. Your holiness made visible to you. Your gifts are your open hands, made clean of grasping. Lay before the newly born your doubts and fears, your pale illusions and your sickly pride, your hidden venom and your little love, your unfaithfulness. Here at the altar lay all this aside, to let the door of heaven open wide. Then hear the angels sing of peace on earth, for Christmas is the time of your rebirth. We are thus asked to do what makes Christmas or any other day truly holy, the renunciation of all the unholiness we believe about ourselves and about the world and about other people. Renunciation means weeding our garden of unholy things, purifying ourselves so that we are a virgin vessel, a pure vessel, like Jesus' mother Mary, through which the Christ can be born. Mario Quintana once said, don't waste your time chasing butterflies. Mend your garden and the butterflies will come. Just think, butterflies. That's kind of a theme of today. So I know there are visual learners out there. I'm a teacher, so I wanted to share this with you. I'll share it with you once again today. But think in those terms of you as a butterfly. When talking about Fillmore's 12 powers, we also talked about the power of faith. Faith in things higher and more noble than just the material physical plane, such things as love and compassion and purity. We all know they exist, but they don't exist in and of themselves on the physical plane. We just have to have faith. We know. We talked about the power of wisdom and how essential it is to use our intellectual knowledge to develop true wisdom, intellectual knowledge, and our experiences. Wisdom is a much higher understanding than mere intellectual knowledge. That's just the stuff you put in computers, basically. Facts. That's not wisdom. When we use our intellects and our experiences and not let them use us, we can develop true wisdom. We also talked about Fillmore's power of love and the wisdom that it takes to really develop the ability to love unconditionally. The shortened version of that is something like never judge a man until you've walked a mile in his moccasins. As you can see with the Fillmore's powers of faith, wisdom, love, and renunciation, all these powers are interrelated. We can't develop the power of love without wisdom, because sometimes we want to love and we just can't. We don't know what to renounce without understanding. And we often can't truly understand without faith. Faith in something other than just the physical, material plane. And so it goes. They're very interrelated. Fillmore's 12 powers are often spoken of during this Christmas season at Unity because developing these 12 powers in us is what enables us to give birth to that Christ consciousness that is always there, that divinity that is always within us, others, and all that is. And that's the whole meaning of Christmas. Jesus, the man, developed his Christ consciousness, which is why he is referred to as Jesus Christ, or Jesus the Christ. And his whole ministry modeled that state of being and taught us how to become that, how to become the Christ for our own good and for the good of the whole world. Today, I would like to zoom in on 4 more of Fillmore's 12 powers: imagination, understanding, will, and power. First, let's look at power. What is it? How does it help us? And how can we really develop that power? Power can be confusing. Around Unity especially, we hear terms like discover the power within you, or you have unlimited power, or God's power is working through me. But you also hear expressions like he's on a power trip, or there's a power struggle going on here, or power corrupts even. You may ask yourself, well, is power really good or bad? Or what powers do we have as human beings? What can we develop? We all have a great deal of power. We just need to use it wisely. That is where understanding comes in. Just think about it. You have the power to think, to love, to imagine, and to plan. Above all, you have the power to choose whether or not you'll even use these powers. You have the power to choose everything, your goals, your interests, how you will create yourself and your consciousness. You have the power to create your whole world by what you choose and how you choose to see everything and everyone. For example, you choose whether or not you accept the prejudices, traditions, habits, institutions, and people of the world. Some may be good, some may be bad. You have the power to choose. You choose whether or not you will conform to them, or at times march to a different drummer. We are free to choose, and that is our ultimate power and obligation. We can choose the traditional musts and shoulds and can'ts, or we can exercise our power of maintaining what we know as right and honorable and pure, regardless of political expediency or the mass psychosis that often reigns in this time of social media. Most importantly, we must remember that we have the power every minute of our lives to choose how we will see any situation. We are programmed to see people and events, of course, in a certain way. But it is our choice to choose whether or not we'll go along with that programming. What happens in our lives is not what makes our lives. It's how we choose to see these happenings. We can choose to see all life as a learning situation, everything, or a school for self-development. Or we can choose to be battered around helplessly by people and outer events, responding to them in a fixed, programmed way, and suffering, being triggered all the time, being at effect and not at cause in our lives. We can respond to life by being negative and depressed every time a person or situation doesn't turn out like what we've been conditioned to think they should be or do, or we can exercise our power and choose to observe and learn and not be a hostage or a slave to outer people and events. We choose our responses to life situations, and these choices create our lives. Abraham Lincoln once said, "I believe most people are about as happy as they make up their minds to be." We all have the power of choice in how happy we'll be. As a man thinketh in his heart, so he is. We have the ultimate power of choice in the way we think about ourselves and others and life situations. So we must be very aware. This is where meditation comes in, aware of our thinking and choosing and feeling. We must be aware of how often we are choosing to be victims, and we must affirm our power to choose and not give this power away by simply justifying and accepting negativity, condemnation, and fear. Use your power to choose your Christ consciousness within and not false gods. Ye cannot serve God and mammon, it says in the Bible. We can't serve our Christ consciousness within and mammon. Mammon is another symbol for our ego, which separates us from our Christ self and others and God. So, your greatest power is the power to choose your life. Closely related to Fillmore's idea of power is understanding. Power and understanding are kind of married in a way. If we don't understand what's important, we could use our power in the wrong way. We need to understand before we use our power. For example, we must understand that our happiness doesn't depend on outer things, but rather on how we react to those outer things. It's our thoughts and feelings about people and things that makes us happy or unhappy. It's not the things themselves, like we were just talking about. The power of happiness or unhappiness lies completely within us. With understanding, we can use our power of choice to create the life that we really desire. Next, we have the power of imagination. William Arthur Ward once said, if you can imagine it, you can achieve it. If you can dream it, you can become it. There is no limit to what God can do in you, through you, and for you. Consider the voyage of the butterfly again. Think of the voyage of this butterfly. A caterpillar. I'd like to share this poem with you, actually. A caterpillar crawls through life, fearing birds and shoes, going nowhere very fast, hoping and praying to last through the day when safety is found in a cocoon. Selfish insect that it may be, hanging high in a hickory tree, soon it hears the woeful story that there is no earthly glory. He is buried in self-pity, when in truth life can be pretty. Thus the ugly worm grows weary of this useless life, so dreary. Then it breaks the bonds that bind it, leaving all its woes behind it, and from the tomb of its creation works its own self-liberation, till at last it soars on high, now a grateful butterfly. There is a lesson to be learned from this worm whose life has turned. I too can work to be free, strive and win some liberty. All I need to do is change, daily habits rearrange, join once more the human race, humbly pray to God for grace, work with friends in unity till all selfish thoughts are gone. Then in truth I shall be free, and my prize serenity. The caterpillar, full of fear and despair at its plight. Sound familiar sometimes? It just needed a little imagination and faith. Two of Fillmore's critical 12 powers. The caterpillar was destined all along to fly away as a beautiful free butterfly, as are you. This miraculous birth as a butterfly is like the birth of your Christ consciousness. It's your destiny. You just need a little faith and imagination. So much more is possible than we dream of in our limited state, in our cocoon. And that brings us to the last of Fillmore's powers that we'll discuss today, will. Now, a synonym for will is really commitment. A lot of people make non-commitment a way of life. That is lack of will, but no game can be truly experienced from the sidelines. We should know that in New Orleans. When you make a spiritual commitment, your whole life is totally transformed. You are filled with spiritual power. When you combine that power with will, you can do great things. It took Martin Luther only 11 weeks to translate the entire New Testament into German. Now that's will. There is no limit to what God can do through you when you are totally committed, when you will your life to be a manifestation of your Christ consciousness. And as with a caterpillar becoming a butterfly, there are 3 stages. I think you can remember the picture. First, it seems impossible. like when the caterpillar is still crawling around. Then it's difficult, like when the caterpillar is going through its arduous task of breaking out of the cocoon. And then it's done. The butterfly soars away above its earthly limitations, a completely new being. And your will to make a spiritual commitment to your Christ consciousness, your higher self, your divinity, will make your life easier too. I'm not saying that you will work less, but I'm saying that you will work smarter and have greater success in that work, with your Christ consciousness guiding your steps. Make no mistake, spirituality is a participatory environment. You can't sit and watch someone else do this for you, of course. You must break out of your own cocoon, and that's what takes will. In Psalms 37:5, it says, "Commit everything you do to God. Trust God to help you do it, and God will." And so it is when you will the birth of your Christ consciousness. Sure, you may struggle at times, but you will always eventually fly away above earthly concerns. That's one of the metaphysical meanings of Christ walking on water. Water often symbolizes the emotions and turmoil, and in Christ's consciousness, you are able to rise above all that, like a butterfly that soars above earthly problems. And you will learn to have faith in that process as you allow it to happen over and over again. You begin to verify it for yourself because you see it. In Proverbs 16:3, it says, "Commit your work to the Lord, then it will succeed." So this Christmas, use your will and say, "I am fully committed spiritually. I am fully committed spiritually." Repeat that with me. I am fully committed spiritually. I am fully committed spiritually. Use your imagination to dream of new possibilities for your life and your spiritual development. Use your power to choose this new life, a higher, nobler, happier existence. And above all, maintain your understanding of what is really important in life, the unseen, the higher levels of life. Allow your Christ consciousness to come forth from its cocoon. It's there just waiting for you to recognize its presence and let it come forth and manifest in your life, in your words, in your deeds, in your thoughts. In John 4:35, Jesus said, "Do you not say, 4 months more, then comes the harvest? But I tell you, look around and see how the fields are ripe for harvesting now. Your field, your life is already ripe now for the harvest." So, open up and feel this Christ energy in you, ready to come forth and guide you and lift you up out of your cocoon stage of life and fly away. This Christmas, commit to allowing your Christ consciousness to be born and to reign in your life so that you know the peace and goodwill toward men, which is heaven on earth for you. Give yourself the gift this year of birthing your Christ consciousness. It's the miracle that's waiting to happen, and you deserve it.